Hello, everybody. This is Sophia Mona Lisa of the Golden Ray Center and the Roseville Mystery School. And I'm very thrilled to welcome you back to our Venus Morning Star journey. This is the descent journey. And at this particular gate that just happened yesterday, we are activating the heart chakra, also known as the portal of compassion, and the 17th strand of DNA. So let's see what we've got going on here. All right, just a little quick reminder. This is the template that was given to me by Yeshua in the Inanna underworld journey of the Gemini goddess journey to replace the old templates, the Inanna myth template for the sacred feminine and the hero's journey for the sacred masculine. And so we have worked our way down here. Here we are now at the heart chakra. You can see, let me move this. You can see that the heart chakra is what we call the seat of the soul, the attractor, because up here we've got the Christ energy. Down here, we have the Sophia energy, right? This is about at the soul star chakra. This is about at the earth star chakra, or just above below those. And there is an electromagnetic force, right? The sacred masculine energy is electrical. The sacred feminine energy is magnetic. And so that it draws these frequencies of Christ and Sophia together as beloveds for them to come into sacred union, and they come together in sacred union right here at the heart chakra. This is where I always talk to you about your inner sacred flame. Some people call it your divine flame. This is where I talk about your inner Christos Sophia. Some people speak to that as your soul, whatever word that you are comfortable with. Now, at this energy center, the spiritual realm that we have access to is prema consciousness. Prema is a Sanskrit word that means love, and actually it's pure love. It's the divine love. And so we have access to this realm of prema consciousness and all of the spiritual gifts of the realm of prema consciousness. So that's where we are today. And you can see next month, then, as we continue through the descent journey, we will then be activating the solar plexus chakra. And then we will start going through the three aspects of the Sophia Trinity, right? We've already come through the three aspects of the Christ Trinity. Father aspect at the crown, Son aspect at the third eye, Holy Spirit at the throat. So next month, we start going through the Trinity of Sophia. Okay. Now, this gate activation that happened yesterday, for me, is just mind-blowing. And you'll see it. I'm going to show you the chart. To me, it clearly demonstrates the grace of the divine, however you relate to it, of source. And it speaks specifically for me to the grace of the divine plan that is unfolding through humanity, that is, embracing and holding humanity, and is supporting humanity. And we can see here that this heart chakra activation is happening at 6 degrees of Scorpio. So I hope you're sitting down, because get ready for what you're going to see. Oh, what happened here? Oh, there it is. Okay. I always get ahead of myself. These are the stars that are going to be a part of this activation, but you'll see they're a little bit offset from this activation, but they're still going to be relevant. And I will speak to this again in a minute. All right, here's the chart. This is what I wanted you to get ready for. What do you see in dark purple?
Kite.
You see a kite. You see a kite. Now, let me tell you something thrilling. You already know that Sophia told me that the opposition is the fundamental astrological aspect for alchemy. And then from there, you've got the T square, which is alchemical. And then from there, you've got the Grand Cross. 3 alchemical aspects. When I was doing a reading for one of my clients recently who had kites showing up, the dragons came in because, you know, the dragons are a part of the T square and the Grand Crosses. And the dragons came in and said, we are also a part of the kites. The kites are also alchemical. And you can see, right, you've got the opposition here, which is the fundamental aspect of a alchemical aspect, but you also have a cross in here. It's not a grand cross, it is a cross. And so the dragons told me they anchor their tails at the tail of the cross. Their fire breath comes through the head of the cross, and of course across here. And we know that these 3 points of the cross are the spiritual gifts that are getting ready to come on board and manifest through us and take flight through us. Their wings, their wingspan goes from this one, this spiritual gift, to that spiritual gift. So this is a flipping huge activation. And I'm going to go a little bit more into detail of that in a minute. First, though, let me bring your attention to this blue circle where these stars are located. All right. You've got Sun and Sabik, Ras Alhague, and the Galactic Center. These stars are a part of a constellation that I'm going to talk about and give you more information on, Ophiuchus. So just hang on to that. But what I want you to see here is we've got the 3 spiritual gifts. From the head of the kite, standing in that sacred partnership, right? That sacred helpmate of the semi-sextile aspect. We've got Yeshua, your inner Christ consciousness, Osiris, your cosmic Christ, and this star Han. This star Han, which is informing this entire 17-strand DNA activation, which again, I'm going to give you more information on, is in the same constellation as these 2 stars that I mentioned right here, Sabik and Ras Alhague. All 3 of those stars are within the Ophiuchus constellation. And while you can see that they're kind of outside the window of being in a specific aspect, they are still, because they're within that constellation Ophiuchus, and particularly because of the galactic center, their proximity to the galactic center, very much informing this activation. And then, so I showed you how Yeshua, Osiris, and the star Han is acting as a spiritual helpmate for the head of the kite, which is one of the spiritual gifts, the Divine Mother and Venus together, right? That's the gate activation. The gate activation at the head of the kite. I mean, come on, you cannot make this up. The kind of cosmic infinite intelligence that orchestrated all of these pieces to come together at this moment of the linear timeline for this gate activation of the heart chakra to be at the head of a kite is just, it's incomprehensible. It's incomprehensible, the kind of intelligence that brought that together. And then to have your inner Christ and the cosmic Christ to be right there, like, I got you. I got you. Don't worry about this. I'm your sacred helpmate. I'm doing this with you. You cannot falter. And so it is also making a semi-sextile to this spiritual gift, which is Mercury, the cosmic messenger, with Sekhmet. She is the Leo divine royalty goddess. Sekhmet. Hold on, I got to take a drink of water. Hold on. So this is huge. What's happening right here is huge. And of course, we know Sekhmet and Mercury together in Capricorn. We've talked about Capricorn with the Pluto here going across this last degree of Capricorn regarding restoring our self-eminence. The cosmic messenger here is actually your ability to hear the messages that are coming forth between the goddess of this Leo journey and your inner way shower. This is huge. This is a huge part of the expansion of your Christ heart and all of the transmissions that are coming in from your divine self through your Christ heart for you to be able to articulate to others or broadcast to others. And a huge part of that inner Christos Sophia is being able to access your inner way shower. And I've mentioned in a recent video journal that if you're watching these video journals, you are a soul who came in agreeing to be one of the way showers to help humanity cross the bridge into the new earth. Now, the other spiritual gift, which is over here, Lilith in Virgo, notice that she's in the 8th house. Lilith, the goddess of sovereignty, who will not, no matter what, will not allow herself to be yoked to anything patriarchal. She will not be subjugated to anyone, anything. She will take the criticism. She will take the demonization because she is not stepping out of her sovereignty. She's not stepping out of her personal power. And here she is in the 8th house of your personal power. Also your superpower. So she's helping you with this kite to make the gifts of this kite one of your superpowers. So that's huge. And then down here at the tail of the kite, we've got Jupiter retrograde in Taurus. And we know his journey through Taurus has just been expanding our inner space so that we can embody all of these higher frequencies that each of these aspects, as we're encountering them, are stretching us into in terms of our leading edge evolution. So in addition to everything involved with the kite, if that wasn't enough, then look who we have over here. We have Saturnia and Magdalene, your inner Sophia. So I love that with this kite, you've got your inner Christ and your inner Magdalene, right? Working it together for this to happen. In fact, You could even say that there is a square between Yeshua and Magdalene, which I have. Well, I mean, there is. I'm not going to say you could say there is actually, but I didn't mark it here because it starts to get a little hard to watch, but or to view. But together, your inner Christos Sophia is creating the breakthrough in consciousness. That's what a square does for everything related to this kite to manifest within you and through you. Okay. Not only that, but Saturnia and the Magdalene, they're making a trine to the gate activation. Remember what trines are: the path of most allowance, right? From your divine self, you are being offered the path of most allowance for what's happening at this gate activation in the heart chakra to allow this kite to take flight. And then not only are they together supporting the kite head, they're supporting the kite tail. Here you have a semi-sextile to this Jupiter retrograde. So this, not a semi-sextile, a sextile. I know sometimes because of my Asperger's, I get those a little backwards. So just to clarify, the semi-sextile is the 30-degree aspect up here. That's the sacred helpmate. The sextile is 60 degrees. That's the BFF that's got your back. So there is no way that this kite is not taking flight. There's no way that you are not going to be able to embody the spiritual gifts of this kite, because it has been set up as a part of the divine plan to come into Saturnia here, manifestation. It's a manifestation from source through your divine self. This is huge. This is absolutely huge. Now, before I get into the silver dragon that is anchoring this kite, because that's so much information, such potent, powerful information, I'm going back to the tribe here. Is there anything coming up around anyone that they're seeing with this chart that they've heard me share, or is there anything desiring a little more clarity? So just please unmute yourself and speak up. Everybody's good? Okay, so let's look at that dragon that we know is anchored here at the tail of the kite. Its fire breath is going through the head of the kite where the great gate activation is. So, you know, the fire breath illuminates that. And then its wingspan is going from Mercury and Sekhmet and Capricorn over here to Lilith in Virgo. And of course, there's a trine between them, because we know that one of the fundamental pieces, there's two fundamental pieces to a kite. You've got an opposition with a grand trine. And this grand trine is an Earth grand trine. This is a clue that what's happening with this kite is pertinent to humanity on this planet. What's showing up for us in this 3D reality for humanity on the planet to connect with. Okay, let's look at the dragon. This is the silver dragon that illuminates your potential with higher light. This is just incredible. It gives you access to untapped resources. It looks into your soul. It sees higher possibilities. And specifically what it's telling us is that your soul blueprint contains the keys and codes of your gifts, talents, wisdom, and power, much of which is locked away and unused. And so this dragon is telling us that it's time for these gifts to be ignited and brought forward. I mean, this dragon with this kite is just magnificent, absolutely magnificent. You can read the rest of this because we are trying to be mindful of the time. But when you read this, you'll see how pertinent it is, not only to the gate activation, but also to the kite aspect. So this is, before I get to Ophiuchus and the stars, let me just come to here. This is what this gate is all about. This gate activation of the heart chakra, which in the 3D heart field, I've always called the compassionate heart. In the Venus synodic cycle, this chakra has always been called the portal of compassion. What's happening is that humanity as a collective is vibrationally taking flight because humanity is having the 3D heart field of every individual being attuned to their 5D heart field, their Christ heart, which has always been with them as a part of their divine template. And so this is the power and the potency of this gate activation. There have been several events that have happened across 2023, starting with the first eclipse in April on the Aries Libra axis, then going to the Ring of Fire eclipse in October, and now this that has been preparing, ramping humanity up to be able to come into conscious equal partnership, Aries Libra axis, between themselves and their Christ heart, the awakened heart. And so this gate activation is doing it for humanity. This silver dragon back here, when you read through all of this, is also facilitating every individual person as a part of collective humanity to be able to get this attunement to their own Christ heart within their divine template. This is just, for me, staggering. Again, I'm going to stop the share. Anybody who has anything that they'd like to share about the potency of this gate activation, please unmute yourself and speak up.
The only thing that comes to mind for me is the fact that this is a silver dragon, and silver, like gold, have their different energies. Gold is it's considered a more active energy, and the silver is considered calmer. It's for the calming, which I think is relevant, because I think that's, to me, it's because there's a lot of stuff going on and people are getting upset, as you can well see. We can see it happening out there. And so this dragon, the silver dragon, is something that I think is beneficial in helping people to calm down and allow. That's just from my own perspective. You know, that's what came to mind, because it was interesting that it was a silver dragon, not a gold one.
Well, and you're absolutely right, Gina, because to take what you said and kind of use a little bit of different language around it, you're right. The gold frequency is very much a yang frequency, the qualities of the yang energy. The silver frequency is very much yin energy and the qualities of the yin energy. And for those that don't understand yin and yang, yang is more sacred masculine energy, yin is more sacred feminine energy. So yes, that feminine energy that's helping to soothe, to hold, this sacred container where they can feel safe and protected.
Chills.
Excellent observation. Excellent awareness heightening. Thank you for sharing. Anybody else have anything they'd like to say around what's happening for humanity with I could have, when we were doing the Capricorn goddess journey, and the stuff about the awakened heart started coming in. I could have never foreseen that this gate activation, the last gate activation of 2023, would be this manifestation of bringing humanity into alignment with the Christ heart. It just you could knock me over with a feather. It's just unbelievable to me. Anybody else? Okay. Thank you, Gina. All right. So let's look at the constellation and the stars that are related to this gate activation and the DNA activation. So here is Ophiuchus. He's also called the serpent charmer. And you'll remember from some recent video journals that I did on some other aspects we've had recently that the constellation here with him is the dragon, Draco. You've got the head here, the tail here. It's not connected because between the tail and the head of the dragon, you've got Ophiuchus, and they call him the serpent charmer. Okay. Now you have to know who Ophiuchus is. And why they named it Ophiuchus, I'm not sure, because this constellation represents the Greek god of healing known as Asclepius. So why they didn't name it Asclepius instead of Ophiuchus, I don't know. But that's who this is. This is Asclepius. And what we know about the constellation here is he's wrestling with the snake of medicine and rebirth. This is going to become much more significant as we go through the rest of this information. I've had people talk to me in the past, ask me in the past about the 13 traditional zodiac signs versus the 12 that most people in Western astrology work with. Ophiuchus is that 13th traditional zodiacal sign, and it falls right between Scorpio and Sagittarius. Now, Asclepius, as a Greek god, he actually didn't become a god until he was placed into the heavens as a constellation. He started out as a demigod. His father was Apollo, but his mother was mortal. And like many of these children, infants that were part gods, part mortals, they ended up being handed over to Chiron, the cosmic shaman, the wise centaur, who raised these special children and taught them the skills that they would need related to whatever divine gifts they inherited from whichever part of the pantheon was their divine parent lineage. Now, Chiron we know as the cosmic shaman. He's also known as the wounded healer. So he is already very much associated with healing. And what's important for me to impress upon you is the subtle differences between what Chiron does with healing and what Asclepius does with healing. So, of course, Chiron raised him, teaching him the arts of medicine and healing. Now, Athena, the goddess of wisdom, she came in to offer Asclepius support as he was being raised up and trained and everything. And this is important because this is the piece that subtly differentiates what Chiron does as a cosmic shaman with what Asclepius does. So Athena gave Asclepius 2 vials of blood from Medusa. And of course, this was after she had her head severed, right? 1 vial of the blood was taken from the right side of her. And that vial of blood from the right side held those properties of what turned men to stone when they gazed upon her. If you've seen other journals that I've done on Medusa, you will know that I got a whole other take on that, which I'm not going to spend the time to go into right now. And of course, it has to do with patriarchy and the patriarchal fears that paralyze you. But this vial of blood destroys life instantly. Okay? Death. The other vial of blood taken from the left side has the power to raise the dead. Rebirth. Death, rebirth. Remember up here it says Ophiuchus wrestles with the snake of medicine and rebirth. This is going to become a big theme of what Asclepius, as a god, once he was put into the heavens, is able to do with the life frequencies. It's all related to death and rebirth. Now, we know that Ophiuchus is between Scorpio and Sagittarius. We know that Scorpio is traditionally associated with these death and rebirth mysteries. But remember, what's on the other side of Ophiuchus is Sagittarius. This is all about the highest truth, the highest ideals. And so you've got this blend of Sagittarian energies coming in with this blend of Scorpion energies with Ophiuchus. And so you're getting enlightenment, right? Being able to hit the target for that highest vision of spiritual truth and healing through the death and rebirth process, because that's what the whole death and rebirth process is. You come out transmuted through that death and rebirth process, through the resurrection process. And so this is why Ophiuchus is about enlightenment and healing, which is the subtle difference between the frequencies he offers and the frequencies Chiron, as the cosmic shaman, offers. So how did he become a god? How did he get thrown into the constellation? What happened is Hades, Lord of the underworld, right? This Scorpio realm got very angry and jealous because of all of the powers over life and death that Asclepius had. And so in order to pacify the Lord of the underworld, Zeus, who is the grandfather of Asclepius, okay, look at this lineage. Asclepius's father is Apollo. Apollo's father is Zeus. So Zeus, in order to appease Hades, killed Asclepius with a thunderbolt. And there he placed him into the sky as the constellation. And that's when he was elevated to a god status. And so you could see that even the death of Asclepius by the thunderbolt and being placed in the sky as a star is also a death and resurrection or rebirth event, because that's the event that transformed Asclepius into a god. And they say that after Asclepius was placed in the sky, that temples related to him, temples of healing, started to pop up around the, that region, Greece and all of that. And that people that would go to Asclepius's temples of healing would have these experiences where he would appear to them in dreams as the great serpent. And of course, that being that symbol of renewal of life and energy, the whole death and rebirth process again. I love the myths. So anything coming up around that? Maureen, do you have anything to share about that? Because you really are the mistress, the master of this death and rebirth. Can't hear you, sweetheart. Can you unmute yourself?
No, no, I don't. I'm just listening and taking it all in. And yeah, I've done work with Asclepius, and I have a star in the serpent that was on the ecliptic when I was born, and so I've worked with him, and you've covered it perfectly.
And you know what? This is my autism kicking in again. Did I call the serpent the dragon? Because I meant to say serpent.
No,
I don't remember. You know how sometimes my words get, I'm thinking I'm saying something and a different word comes out. So always feel free to correct me. Okay.
You said serpent.
I said serpent. Okay.
Yeah. Did I say dragon?
No, you said serpent, but it made me think that maybe I said it wrong.
Oh, no, not
Okay.
at all. No.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And so what were you saying about your star in the serpent constellation?
Yeah, I have a star in the in its neck, in the serpent's neck, that was on the ecliptic when I was born. And so I have worked with him. I took a class, you know, that covered him and two other healers, Chiron being one of them. And I think the other one was a woman, and right now the name is gone. But anyway, yeah, you covered it. I have nothing more to add. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Anybody else?
I do want to say something. Nicole.
Okay.
I
Thank you, Nicole.
I like this because it's a constant death and rebirth process through each aspect of shadow that we're going through. And as you move forward into the new energy, it is like a piece of you is dying, but you're also regaining that piece of clarity that you've had covered by a lens that you were looking out of. And this process is a new process and connected into the heart space. I think this is one of the most powerful gates that we're activating. I even drew, as we were sitting here, the Fool. It is the start of a new journey. We are really rebirthing this heart center to move forward in a more clear and coherent way. And so that's just what it brings for me.
Nicole, you are absolutely right on. And I love how you speak to the Fool, that very first card of the tarot, because this is what's happening for humanity as a collective. Humanity as a collective, as the Fool is stepping onto this whole new spiritual pathway that it's been blocked from by the dark forces. This is the grace of the divine that's coming through to support humanity.
Yep.
This is why I'm so excited.
And you can see the changes starting to take place in the world around you. But the more you change within yourself, the more the world changes around you. And I think that's important for everyone to keep in mind. The more energy work you're doing on yourself and the more clarity you bring in, the more the world around you changes too. You're like a ripple in a pond, and it's going out from you to affect everyone around you. And I think that's very important.
You're absolutely right. Right on. Yes, that's why I was so ecstatic about this gate, because like you said, to me, this is the most significant gate activation within the Leo Divine Royalty Goddess journey that we've had so far. And it's just the fourth gate activation. But boy, is it a doozy.
Yes, ma'am.
Adding on to what Nicole's talking about with the death and rebirth, it's similar. I don't know if it's similar, but anyway, I equate it similarly to the Inanna underworld journey, which is sort of kind of what we're doing anyway with being in the underworld right now, because she had to get rid of 7 gifts. And so when you come out on the other side, when you start to ascend again, come back on the ascent journey, you choose to pick up that gift again or not. And it's the same thing to me, it's the same thing with what's going on here. What am I discarding, and what am I taking up yet again? What do I want to
And
keep?
that's what the Inanna myth speaks to, which we are not using as a template, but because you did bring it up, through this descent phase of the Venus synodic cycle, it correlates in the old template to Inanna descending from heaven into the underworld to meet her sister Erishagal. And at each gate, she lets go of one of her divine royalty ornaments. And when she lets go of those ornaments, she's losing more and more of her power. And Maureen, because this one is particularly poignant for you, you want to tell them which ornament is given away at the heart chakra?
It's a protector, the shield.
The breastplate.
The breastplate, yes, that she wears. And so yeah, she's giving up. And I think it's also very relevant that she is going through the steps of alchemy.
Mhm.
And at each gate, she is burning the parts of her through calcination that are no longer relevant. And so in that way, we can still embrace Inanna and understand that when she does ascend, she will be transmuted through the steps of alchemy. That's a real important part to remember. So, and it is part of my presentation today. You guys are all just right tuned in. So
I know. I'm so amazed that Gina like totally tuned in and picked up on that. It's
yes,
incredible.
absolutely.
It's
Yes,
really
yes.
And one of the reasons why Yeshua said that myth was no longer relevant for the Venus synodic cycle is this. In the myth, Inanna and her sister Ereshkigal are split. Inanna is in heaven. Ereshkigal is in the underworld. But during the Gemini Inanna underworld phase, Inanna and Ereshkigal were brought back into wholeness, so that during the ascent journey of the Gemini goddess, they rose together. Ereshkigal was no longer left in the underworld. And so knowing that they are whole, you know, and this might be an interesting something that we want to maybe later look into and contemplate. If, as you're both tapping into this Inanna myth and this descent journey, well, then Inanna is not coming down into the underworld alone. She's coming down with her sister, Ereshkigal. And how does that subtle shift in the descent, where the sisters are coming together, transform what's happening at each of these chakras?
Yes.
So that's something to contemplate. And if anybody receives anything while we're doing this, and we've moved on from this, feel free to just speak up to it. Thank you, Nicole and Gina and Maureen. Anything else?
I don't think this is all exactly myth.
No, it's not.
I think this speaks to attachment. And that's what we're working through with each time we get together. Letting go of your attachments from this world brings you closer and closer to your divine nature. So as we go through and release each one of these things that we're working on, all of these attachments, good and bad, they are just a sense of security to you. If you can let go of all attachments in this world, you find you have everything you need inside of you. And that's the biggest part about this, is letting go of these attachments and coming back to who you really are. And that's the beautiful process that we're going through right now. I love it.
I love that, Nicole, and it actually speaks to the contemplative question of how is it shifted when Inanna and Ereshkigal as sisters come through the descent journey together, because the sisters who were split are now whole. And so as you're letting go of these attachments, you're getting closer and closer to your own wholeness.
You're letting go of who you thought you were. So I am here in the heavens. I am here in the underworld. This is who I am. As you let go of that, you can come closer and closer into the divine nature and partner with each other to just be who you are. And that's what I take away from it.
You're absolutely right. It's funny, Nicole and I have this interesting dynamic where we're always saying the same thing and we're always using different words.
That's right.
Right on. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. Okay, let me go back to the slides. Okay, so now that you know who Ophiuchus is as a constellation, let's look at these stars. Now, remember, Han, the star Han, is in that semi-sextile cluster with Yeshua and Osiris, right? Your inner Christ, the cosmic Christ, and Han, who is working as the sacred helpmate to the Venus gate at the head of the kite, and to Sekhmet and Mercury and Capricorn, the other spiritual gift. Okay. So what the frequencies of this star are infusing into this entire gate activation, and also specifically your 17th strand of DNA activation, is a deep sense of purpose in your life. Now, those of us in the tribe, we already have a deep sense of purpose. That's why we're doing this work. But think about this influence in the larger context of what's happening at the gate activation for the collective humanity. Once the individuals of humanity who have been really disconnected from themselves, who have had no sense of purpose in their life, once they get attuned to their Christ heart, whoosh, they're going to start waking up to this deep sense of purpose that is all of a sudden going to become significant to them. It's going to be connecting them with this drive to know what their soul mission is, so that they can start working on that spiritual path of being able to do the work that they came here to do as a soul mission. And I love this piece. This star brings in higher spiritual capacities for engaging others in conscious equal partnership, right? This is what this whole Christ Heart mentorship program that Sophia inspired me to do with this new series of eclipses on the Aries Libra axis, conscious equal partnership. And so they're getting attuned to their Christ heart. They're getting this sense of that they've got a deeper purpose now. What it is, it's going to show up as their soul mission that they're going to be dedicated to working. And so through that whole process, they're going to be coming into conscious equal partnership with their own self through their own Christ heart. I mean, this is flipping phenomenal. Think about this star standing with the cosmic Christ, with the inner Christ, as this sacred helpmate to support all of this divine inspiration to come through into humanity from this gate activation. Now, these other two stars, remember, they're a little bit further away. They're still in the same astrological sign, but they are closely conjunct the galactic center, right? So Han, he's more to like the first part of the Sagittarius sign. These two stars with the galactic center, they're more towards the last part of Sagittarius. There's that gap in it, okay? So Sabik as a star brings an understanding of the perfect balance of yin and yang. You have to have this understanding of this fundamental balance in order for, and you're going to see how this is going to become relevant at this gate in terms of the alchemical piece, in order for your inner feminine, your inner masculine to come into balance. It's got to be in balance so that you can come into conscious equal partnership. Okay, so what's going to happen is this is going to start showing up through people in a physical way. They're going to experience it through their physical body. And just as Nicole said earlier, you know, when you have these inner shifts, what's happening on the inner reality then manifests and you start to observe in your outer reality, right? That's what the mystery schools teach us. As above, so below, as within, so without. This is all of these stars. Remember, they're a part of this kite, very alchemical. Okay, and then this last star, Ras Alhague. Now, anybody who speaks Greek or whatever, if I'm mispronouncing these, I apologize. I'm doing the best I can. This star brings awareness of how to use creative visualization by using the etheric body. And for me, the etheric body is what I refer to as the multidimensional self, to shape energies, right? What we see in the quantum field, which is where our multidimensional field is located. When you put your attention on a point in the quantum, now it can be made manifest. And so this is what this star is helping us to do, to creatively visualize or to imagine what it is that you're desiring to create and manifest, and how to shape that creation before it actually shows up in the physical, whether it's in your physical body or in your external manifestation. So these are really powerful stars that are influencing the gate activation and the 17th strand of DNA. So I know that was a lot of information. Before Maureen takes over and goes into the alchemical piece, let me just stop the share one more time. Is there anybody that has anything else they'd like to share about what we've discussed so far, or any questions that are desiring clarity? Okie dokie. All right, let me go back to the slides, and Maureen, you can unmute yourself and take it away.
Am I unmuted now? Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, good, good. Okay, the alchemical steps. We are now at conjunction, the fourth, right in the middle of our process. So conjunction, all right, okay. Conjunction, here is the symbol for conjunction, and the heart is at conjunction, the heart chakra. No, crown, thank you. I'm going backwards. I've been studying living backwards. All right. Sorry. Yeah, the crown is now at the heart gate.
No, sweetie.
The third eye is now at separation. The throat is at dissolution, and at heart is calcination, right? Did I say that right?
Kinda.
Kinda?
So, yeah, kinda. So the crown chakra, which is this heart gate activation. I just wanted to clarify that what you said
Yeah,
is going through the conjunction step.
yeah.
And now each of the
crown is
subsequent,
down. Yeah,
yeah,
the crown is moving. They're all moving down step by step. So we keep picking up another part as we go through. And when we get to the last gate and into the underworld, not all of the gates will have gone through all of the steps, only the crown. And so we will be picking up things in the underworld. I'm not sure how that's going to look right now, but this is where it stands right now. I love this slide. This will be very clear where everything is. And then you can review the different exercises that we did at each step. So those will be back in the postings, the replays for those particular dates.
right. So I just want to clarify for anybody else watching that every time we have a gate activation, like today's is at the heart chakra, that heart chakra that's being activated today is at the first step of alchemy, which is calcination. The chakra before it, which of course is the throat, now it's moved from the first step to the second step, which is dissolution.
Yeah.
The chakra before that, which is the third eye, is now moved to the third step from dissolution to separation. And now the crown chakra, which is where we began, is at the fourth step, moving from separation to conjunction. Is that right, Maureen?
Yeah. Except the heart will start with calcination.
That's what I said, sweetie.
Okay. Okay.
The heart is at the first step, calcination.
Right. So
Okay.
it's under conjunction. I was confused. Okay.
No, honey, mine says crown chakra over here.
Yeah, under conjunction. That's where we are. But yeah, okay. Okay, I'm just gonna pretend that I'm not confused. I'm gonna move on to my presentation. I think it is confusing. I think trying to figure out where everything is, you have to actually, I have to write it down and go from there. Otherwise, I can get lost in the travel. Okay, step 4, conjunction. This is where opposite elements are reunited. The element we're working with in nature is earth. The representative number is 3. Summation. I'm going to do a quick review of the other steps. Calcination, purification by fire. We are looking at the parts of us that are false through either programming or a belief system. The metal is lead. The planet is Saturnia. This is a detachment from material possessions. It is the Negredo stage of alchemy. We are still in the color black. We may have dark nights of the soul, shadow, all of that comes up. Dissolution, and the burning bowl ritual is the main exercise we need to do always at calcination. Okay, dissolution, purification by water. The metal is tin, the planet is Jupiter. We are still in the Negredo stage. We are still working primarily with shadow. It breaks down even more the false structures that we have built through programming, training, beliefs. They would be called, I don't know, distortions in our belief system. We are looking at those closely, identifying those. You need to listen to your feelings, record your dreams, and now you start looking for synchronicities because they will begin to show up. The deeper you get into self, the more you discover, the more you will find synchronicities in nature. Just like the birds or whatever, you find that comes and is obviously with a message. You want to cleanse all that makes you feel inferior to other people, inferior to other people's ability to understand their spiritual nature. There's always a place where we don't feel quite equal to other people. You don't want that. That is not, everybody's path is different. Everybody's path is just as important. And you absolutely do not want to feel inferior. So look at that very carefully when you are in the stage of dissolution. Let's see, separation is the element of air. The metal is iron, the planet is Mars. This is where we save remains from calcination and dissolution that we want to keep. There are parts of us that are good, and we're not going to get rid of them. We're going to transmute, and they will stay with us during this journey. This is the first step, separation, where soul and spirit come together. We gain a new perspective on what is worthy of being saved. What is saved is pure, but often opposites. Keep them separate at this point. Separation. You do not want to try to fix anything. You will need will and determination and time to think about what it is that you are holding. Just because they conflict doesn't mean there isn't a future for them. You need to hold them in your space, in your sacred space. And the phrase of the emerald tablet pertaining to separation is the wind carries it in its belly. The image to hold is a youthful Hermes in full armor, trying to keep the king and the queen, the masculine, the feminine, from fighting. They are fighting at this point. There is conflict. And he is in between Mercury, communication. He is in between, just holding them off from hurting each other at this point, or trying to get rid of each other, or not wanting to be united. They're conflicting at this point. And remember the breath. This is an important part of separation, the prana. Be sure to exercise your breath practice and continue to what we were learned at the gathering with Sophia Mona Lisa. It helps us to embody, and that's what we want to do. So that's a summation. All right. Now on to conjunction. This is where you want to hold elements in your heart space without attempting to resolve the differences. As I said, there will be conflicts. It's okay. You don't want to try to fix it, just hold them. This is the marriage of our inner masculine and inner feminine, in truth, without deceit, and most veritable. This is the first line of the Emerald Tablet. The goal of conjunction is to recombine these elements, not through compromise, which is what you would normally think about putting conflicting elements together. But compromise is actually a form of denial. And we do not want to deny any part of us. So you're just going to hold those conflicting parts in sacred space. And the saying from the Emerald Tablet that is applicable to this is the nurse is the earth. That is where the element earth comes in. She is the nurse, the healer. It's a very, very sacred process, conjunction. It's probably one of the most important steps in alchemy. It is considered the marriage of the sun and the moon. And we know that the sun and the moon hold two different opposing ways of knowing the world. They would seem to be opposing ways. They look at it differently, but they're going to come together in this step, still in conflict. The solar is going to represent the intellectual, the rational. The lunar is in touch with the non-rational forces like psychic impression and intuition. And in our society, those two don't go together. So we have to work with the conflict that we have been brought up with, that the masculine and the feminine look at the world differently. What was that book that the Venus, the
Men are from Mars, women are from Venus.
yeah, the Venus and Mars, they were showing how opposite they are, understanding the masculine and the feminine. And so at this point, you don't want them to come together because, as I said, they will come together in their own time, internally, into a new thing, not from compromise, but a new energy, something very new. And this new thing will be called heart intelligence. It's an intelligence that is very, very superior to the masculine way of looking at things alone and the feminine way of looking at things alone. They have to be balanced. They have to come into balance in order for the new to be born. It is a third thing. Do not engage in compromise. Like I said, that's denying parts of yourself. That is not a part of conjunction at all. Okay. Now I've done that. Okay. They call conjunction the turning point in the 7 steps. It's like a crossroads. And in alchemy, they say the alchemist is now on the cross. There is a horizontal way of looking at things. There is a vertical way of looking at things. And the heart is where they come together. It's like 2 streams right now of water, and they're flowing together to make a new thing in the heart. We want heart intelligence. That is the blending of balance between the masculine and the feminine. Okay, so this one is a little different than the way we usually look at the lower 3 chakras, which is where we usually start when we clear. The root chakra is one of the 3 chakras of will. That's what they're called in alchemy. And the root chakra before transmutation feels fear. The sacral chakra before transmutation seeks to seduce, incorporate from the outside world into the self. The solar plexus before transmutation needs self-affirmation. It needs to take over. It needs to give advice that is accepted without question. So all of those root chakras right now are not in tune in alchemy with the upper four who have gone through transmutation, and the heart will have totally been transmuted by the time we even get there. The heart is generally not considered damaged. It's holding space right now for the lower three chakras to go through transmutation, and then they will be in service to the heart. Right now, no, they haven't gone through alchemy. They haven't gone through the steps. So they're not thinking that way. They're not thinking in service to the heart. Just like all the signs are in service, all the planets in our charts are in service to our ascendant. That's what we come in with. The chakras are not all in service to the heart, but they will be. And once that happens, once the heart feels they are all in tune with her, she will have developed what she needs to remain vulnerable, soft, and impressionable. She will develop the utmost, the highest level of compassion. And that's what happens when all the chakras are aligned with heart intelligence. Okay, so here's the properties of Earth. I'm just going to let you read through those on your own time. I just wanted to say that these are all from Lisa Michaels' book, Natural Rhythms. And yesterday and today, all her books are free for download. There is, she calls Nature's Creation Alchemy, which is the reprinting of her book, Natural Rhythms. She now calls it Nature's Creation Alchemy, a sacred guide to the elements and natural rhythms. There is Nature's Creation Alchemy, which is a bridge between the upper and the lower, the above and the below, and Luna Soul, Nature's. Luna Soul is another book, and it is Nature's Rhythmic Manifestation. Those books are free through today. So if you would like to download them for your reference, that they're available.
Are they free on Amazon or
on
free
Amazon?
Okay.
On Amazon. Yes, yes. So she's offering that for free.
Well, I will absolutely take advantage of that. Thank you so much for letting us know. And I highly encourage everyone to get those while you can.
Yeah. She had a download. I think she was in Mexico when it happened, and she came home and wrote the first book. And it is just a magnificent in explaining the forces of nature and spirit and unity consciousness, all the things that we need. And alchemy is all about nature. And so it's very relevant. I do to encourage you to take advantage of that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, these are cautionary things to be aware of when I'm probably speaking to the choir here, but there are things that we can get involved in that really aren't necessary, like ego. Is it necessary or not to destroy your ego? I don't think so, because ego is part of being human. Okay. I'm trying to find my notes. Okay, what they teach us about ego is that it is generally concerned with self and attachments. But it is also something that we can use to inform ourselves. A healthy ego can be a good source of information and a pathway into yourself. So I would suggest not trying to destroy the ego as much as making it healthy. So be careful that in alchemy, you're not burning something that can be used to inform you through transmutation. That's just something to be aware of. And do we have to connect all the dots? No, we do not. And I am the biggest rabbit hole jumper ever there was. I will jump down every single rabbit hole and every single theory, every single idea, and try to find if it's true or not. That's part of my Sagittarian Venus. But I've gotten myself into places where I feel helpless, and I can't control outcomes, and that causes stress. And you got to be careful not to get into that situation. I know a lot of us research things, and that's fine. We look at conspiracies and see if there might be some truth to them, and there is too many of them. But just don't feel like you're controlled by that, and that knowing them makes you helpless, because it doesn't, not at all. And you want to think like a magician, not a muggle. Now, anybody who's read Harry Potter knows that a muggle is an asleep person. They are not aware. They are not consciously aware of magic. So they will do the biggest thing they can find to make an impression. But what we need to do is find the smallest subtle action to take that still has an effect. And I believe Nicole brought up the ripples in the water. Well, that's what I use too, is that you're skipping stones. You find the right rock. And it's not a huge thing. It's generally small, flat rock that you think will lightly skip across the water. And then you throw it, and that's what it does. Skips across the water, and each time it lands, ripples come out. So think like a magician. The smallest action will have the biggest effect. It will ripple out, and what you do will make a difference. Okay, so are there any questions about conjunction? I probably missed something, but I think the important thing to learn about it is that you are holding conflicts right now. You're not trying to resolve them. It will come to you. The things that inside are conflicting. I remember a Star Trek. I'm a big trekker. I love Star Trek. And one of the things that was important about it was that you had all of these archetypes, and you could see how all of them were interacting with each other. And oh, that thought just grew. That's just gone. That's just gone. Never mind. It'll come back another time, and I'll put it in. So anyway, is there any questions about? Yes.
Okay, so first of all, I love the synchronicity of how this step in alchemy landed on the heart chakra activation.
Mm-hmm. It is amazing. Yeah.
And beyond that, I love how you talked about, the vertical line and the horizontal line. And I probably got those backwards. And
No,
the heart
that's
is in
fine.
the middle.
Yeah,
But that's the framework for the kite,
that's
right?
right. Yes.
That's the
it is.
framework for the kite. I love
Yes.
that.
Yes.
I did want to ask, because we are talking about the stages with the mercury. You mentioned that calcination, dissolution, and I think separation are part of the Negretto stage. Is that correct?
Separation isn't.
Okay.
It's the first two. Separation is the first step where soul and spirit are coming together. They're not, it's not the heart, but the calcination part and purification by fire, purification by water dissolution is the Negretto. Yes.
And so are separation and conjunction the albedo stage?
I would say conjunction, and you're moving into, yeah, I would say yes. That's a good way to look at it. Yeah.
Okay, because I'm going to be talking about the albedo stage today.
Okay,
So that's another huge synchronicity that's come together with this.
Mhm.
Okay, beautiful.
Absolutely. Yes. Wonderful. So you will be working with conjunction with the crown, and please do your burning bowl. Write down anything, that comes to you within this gate concerning your sovereignty in your heart. We're opening our hearts here. So this is what we want to do. It will look different than what you did at calcination, dissolution, and separation. It will feel different. Just go with it. Just write down whatever comes down, what comes up, any kind of conflicts, and you will go through your burning bowl with that.
The other thing I like about this concept of conjunction in the heart being able to hold the conflict, to have the space to hold the conflict, that very much reminds me of an inconjunct aspect where you're being, where you've got this struggle between, I can either be this or I can be that, or I can do this or I can do that. And what the aspect is inviting you to do is to expand enough to be both of them, to step out of the either or into the and. And that's what you're describing around the heart chakra, or the conjunction stage with the heart holding the conflict. That's what it kind of relates to for me.
Absolutely. It is in astrology. That's what it would be. And I was really happy to come across the idea of compromise. I mean, everybody knows that. We have to compromise, right? In order to have a good relationship. No, we don't. That's just a distortion. It leaves you denying half of yourself. You're not going to be happy. Either is the other person. That intermarriage, no, we do not have to compromise anything ever. And remember this in all your relationships. If you don't fit, you don't fit. That's all there is to it. And that's fine. It's natural. But in some of your relationships, it will be a perfect fit. Nobody has to compromise. Everybody respects each other. It's a real important point to understand how we've been raised in this culture, that we have to give something up in order to get something good. And that's not at all true. And that just hit me like a sledgehammer. Wow. Because that's what I've been doing my whole life.
Yeah.
Trying to compromise to fit with somebody else or another idea or another way of thinking. No, don't do that. Don't fall into that hole anymore. We're done. It's over.
You know, what's fascinating, Maureen, is I think it was a week, maybe 10 days ago. Karen, I know I'm putting you on the spot. Karen and I were having a phone conversation and she had this huge download around compromise. Do you want to share any of that with us, Karen, about your download? Okay. But yeah, I can't hear you because you've got your mute on and I'm not good at reading lips.
I don't even remember. Feel free to share if you want.
Yeah, I had just come back from the Abraham Hicks thing, which was a Saturday thing, and it was the next day, Sunday. And you started talking about how you had this whole download around compromise and how you weren't going to compromise anymore because that wasn't being true to yourself.
Yay.
I don't remember that. I don't even remember that conversation.
We
I
had
remember
a very
having a
long
conversation.
discussion, a very long, enlightening conversation around it, but that's okay. You've got what you needed from it. But it's a synchronicity again, you know, that we were coming up.
There was something. Yeah.
Yeah, it was that we were coming up to this step of alchemy and you were already receiving
Oh, yeah.
this piece of it.
That part I remember. I just don't remember the details.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Mm.
I'm so happy to hear that. Yeah.
Can I quickly speak to the ego portion of this?
Mhm.
So, in the ego portion of this, a
Mhm.
lot of us have been letting our ego run our life.
Mhm.
And through this alchemy process, we're letting go of pieces of ourselves. It's not an ego death, it's the releasing of the parts that no longer serve us. And as we do that, we come into a divine partnership with ourselves to where we have our ego and we have our spirit living harmoniously within our body so that we can go through life spiritually connected at all times. And when you're in your ego, in your head, thinking and planning and plotting, you've somewhat disconnected from your spiritual self because you're letting your ego run the show. And as you can learn to stay heart-centered and communicate back and forth, it's not an either or, it is an and. It is allowing the mind to have a say, but not needing to take that perspective as your own, realizing that's your humanness. And there's another part of you. And bringing those two together in divine partnership, you're able to live your authentic self without compromising who you are internally and saying what's best for you to everyone else with such awareness for yourself that it's taken as truth by the other person and there is no compromise there. You can say that doesn't work for me. Can we find something that works for both of us? And that's kind of how we're supposed to be living our lives, but we've always been told that's selfish, that's not appropriate. You know, you don't get what you want because you have to share your toys with your sister, but these are my toys, right? So that whole conflict throughout your whole life has taught you a way of living. And this process is releasing all of the old ways of being to find who you really are underneath all of the stuff that you've put on top of yourself. And I just wanted to share that very clearly. So it is a partnership. It is not an ego death. We're not trying to kill part of ourselves. We are trying to merge ourselves into a divine union where both our humanness and our spiritualness can harmoniously survive inside of us and lead us through life.
Absolutely. Thank you, Nicole.
Well said, Nicole. Well said. And of course, you know, that's the whole message behind the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna, as the divine charioteer, has got the hold of the reins of those 5 horses. He's got them under control. He's not letting those horses run willy-nilly and tipping over the chariot. He's got a
Mhm.
hold of those horses. And so the horse is representing all the aspects of the ego. And of course, Krishna is the divine charioteer, your divine self. And so now the charioteer and the horses can work together to get you to where it is you're intending to go. You don't shoot the horse and get another one because it's not doing what you want.
Right.
Any other questions before we move on to the next piece of the alchemical teachings?
No, but just as you were talking about horses again.
I can't
always
help
a-
myself. I have the
well,
horrible horse. What can I do?
I'm not arguing. I'm not criticizing at all because I get it. But even working with a horse is a partnership.
Mhm.
It's not control. It's working together as a team. And that's basically like what Nicole was saying, is that we're not killing the ego off because the ego is here to help the human body survive. And what we need to let it know that it's okay. I know it's not normal, but it's okay.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Gina. That's
Okay.
right. Maureen, did you want to speak to your poem that you shared with us, or do we? Go ahead.
It's just there for your interest and enjoyment. I just liked it. I had to adapt it a little bit. But I just liked it. It just spoke to alchemy. And
Yeah, it does. It does. And I like the first line. I tend to be gobsmacked by the beauty of earth.
I love the word
Yep.
gobsmacked.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. That's great. Okay, here we go. So we've been including this alchemical piece related to the Mercury synodic cycle. Of course, this is all based on Gary P. Caton's work in his book, The Hermetica Triptycha. And so last month, I gave you some of his teachings on the Negretto stage. And this is that synchronicity I was speaking to with Maureen, that the separation and conjunction steps are a part of this albedo stage that I'm going to speak to today. Now, just to remind you of the Mercury events that have happened this month. December 4th, we had that Mercury elongation, which is the separation or departure stage. And now at the winter solstice, we're having the inferior conjunction. It's going to be conjunct that solstice point within less than a degree, which is the initiation. And then this entire synodic cycle, Mercury synodic cycle, will complete next month, January, at the rubedo phase with the morning elongation, which is the return. So before I dive into the albedo information, I want to remind you why Maureen and I consciously chose to invite you to watch the series of the Harry Potter movies and to consciously look for within each movie the separation, the departure, the initiation, and the return. Because as you practice discovering in each of those movies where the departure, the initiation, and the return are for those movies. And remember, there's no right answer. Maureen and I sometimes land on the same thing for one, and sometimes land on different things for the others. And sometimes we're completely aligned through all three. And sometimes we're on two different pages for all three. It's all good. The point is, as an exercise, inviting you to watch those movies to find and discover for yourself the departure, initiation, and return within them so that you can become more familiar with the Negretto, albedo, rubedo specifically as it relates to the Mercury synodic cycle, and then as Maureen is sharing, how it relates to the 7 steps. As she said, the Negretto was the calcination and dissolution, the albedo was the separation, and now the conjunction. Okay, so this is what the albedo initiation is all about, related to the Mercury inferior conjunction. Let me remind you, that's when Mercury and the sun come together in the underworld. That's why it's called inferior conjunction. Mercury is retrograde. This Mercury inferior conjunction happens right in the middle. I mean, smack dab in the middle of Mercury's retrograde journey. And this Mercury inferior conjunction is the most potent, oops, I don't know how that happened. I wasn't touching the computer. Most alchemical point of the entire Mercury synodic cycle and of the Mercury retrograde cycle, with a window of 3 days, the day before, the day after, the day of, and the day after. Okay. So astronomically in the sky, when the Mercury and the sun come together, Mercury as a luminary body is at the point closest to the Earth during its entire synodic cycle. And so what happens is there is an alignment that takes place between Earth, Mercury, and Sun. And so what it looks like is that Mercury is passing between the Earth and the Sun to make that alignment. And because he is standing between the Earth and the Sun in that alignment, what he is doing is he's serving what Gary calls a medial role. And for other people watching that don't understand what a medial role is, it's someone or something that's taken on the role of the mediator, right? Medial role mediating between what's happening with the sun and the earth. That's the role he's playing. And as Gary reminds us, that's, he's serving as a bridge between heaven and earth. And so what happens with this alignment is then we are ourselves activated to create a similar inner alignment within ourselves. And it goes back to what, Maureen and Nicole were just talking about in terms of the alchemical process. What's happening is we're achieving this alignment and integration between our egoic self and our divine self. And so, isn't it fascinating that we're at the conjunction step of the 7 alchemical steps? And this is, I'm talking about the Mercury inferior conjunction that's going to happen with the winter solstice. So this Mercury inferior conjunction is the time when the solar seed of our higher self, and that's what the sun is representing in the alignment between sun, Mercury, and earth, the solar seed of our higher self, which is our spiritual will of our inner sovereign, is being impressed upon the receptive, fertile matter of the below. That's the earth, the egoic self. The ego is in this receptive place to receive this impression, this seed to be planted within it. And so again, as Gary says, and what Maureen was speaking to about the conjunction stage is, this is the Hieros Gamos. This is the sacred marriage, the inner marriage that's happening within, the inner marriage that's happening above. In the mystery schools, they call it Hieros Gamos, which means sacred marriage. And so the whole task for us in this albedo stage at this Mercury inferior conjunction is to become aware and to make conscious the shadow parts within our egoic self that are seeking the light of our higher self. And he likens that to thinking of how the sun's rays penetrate the soil to the seed that's buried within the earth. And that sunlight allows that seed that's buried in the earth to begin to germinate. So this is what's happening in the albedo phase. Okay. So from the last gate activation at the throat chakra, we invited you to watch The Prisoner of Azkaban to look for the departure, the initiation, and the return. So I'm going to stop the share now. And I know I picked them out for me. I know Maureen picked them out for her. Did anybody else have an opportunity to look for those? Okay, Maureen, you want to share yours first?
Sure. I chose as the departure, the time when Harry is on the curb. He's just left his house on Privet Drive. And he's on the curb and he sees the Grim. At least that's what we think it is at that time. It's a dog. It comes out and it's vicious. It looks mean and vicious, growling. And he takes out his wand to protect himself. And the night bus turns up. And the dog is gone. And Harry finds out that there is such a thing as a night bus, which picks up stranded witches and wizards when they stick out their wand. And so that, to me, was the separation. The initiation began when, let's see, what did I say? What did I say that was? I'm trying to remember what it was, the initiation. I think it was when, it was when the Dementors came and picked out, particularly Harry, to to draw his best memory, his happiness, his parts of his being that they lived off of, the energy within him that they wanted, and they were sucking it up, and he was hearing the screams in the background, and I think, to me, that was the initiation, began at that point. And the return was when they came back after they'd gone with the time turner. Harry and Hermione had gone back in time to save both Sirius and Buckbeak. And when they returned, they had just left the hospital wing, and Ron was in the hospital at this point. And so Ron had just said goodbye to them, and then they just walked in the door, and he's all confused. And Hermione and Harry are kind of laughing at that they will explain, but at that moment they're all together again, and that, to me, was the return.
And so you'll see that that's completely different from what I picked out, which again is okay. It's just how you relate to it. So for me, the departure was actually what Maureen identified as the initiation. For me, the departure is they're on the train to Hogwarts, and the train stops. The Dementors are out there. They're supposed to be looking to see if Sirius Black is on the train. And the one Dementor that comes into the train car where Harry, Hermione, and Ron are, starts to suck out Harry's life force. And then he passes out when he hears the scream. And the reason I felt like that was the departure is because for me, the whole rest of the movie is about Harry learning how to deal with these Dementors. And of course, the whole reason the Dementors are there are because of Sirius Black, who has escaped from Azkaban. So for me, that was the departure. The initiation is when Harry and Sirius has been fighting the werewolf, Professor Lupin, and they end up down by the lakeside. And Harry is all distressed because Sirius has been very, very badly injured by the werewolf. And all of a sudden, the Dementors start to show up again, and they're sucking out Sirius Black's life force, and they start to suck out Harry's life force. And then what happens is Harry sees across the lake this Patronus, this stag Patronus that is deflecting all of the Dementors, and thereby saving not only Sirius Black's life, because you see the one little drop of chi like drop back into his throat, but also Harry's life. To me, that was the initiation, and I'll tell you why in just a second. Okay, I'll tell you now. I thought it was related to the return. The reason for me that was the initiation is because when they use the time turner to go back, Harry's telling Hermione as they're watching all of that happen, my dad's going to show up. He's going to save us. And he's not coming, and he's not coming. And then Harry realizes, I'm the one that created the Patronus. I'm the one that saved us. But he only got that realization through the time turning thing when he was actually had gone back in time. Because when he was seeing the Patronus, he didn't know that it was him on the other side of the lake creating the Patronus. So for me, that was the initiation, when he sees himself, or he sees the Patronus show up to save them. And then the return for me is when Harry and Hermione get on Buckbeak's back after they've rescued him. And oh, that's why I was going to wait and tell you. And Harry tells her that he realized that he could conjure the Patronus to save himself because he had already done it before. That was the return. So I don't have my glasses on, so it's hard to see. But yeah, so the initiation was when he saw the Patronus and it saved them. And for me, the return is they are already on Buckbeak, who they've saved. They're flying back to release Sirius Black, and he tells Hermione that he knew he could do the Patronus because he realized he had already done it before.
Do you realize the alchemical process in that also?
Yes, the entire Harry Potter series not only follows the hero's journey, but is incredibly alchemical.
Very much so.
That's why we keep inviting you to watch the next movie in the series and to practice discerning for yourself the departure, the initiation, and the return.
For me, the Dementors are attracted to the darkness or the heaviness that you have stored inside of you. And maybe you weren't aware of it when they first attacked you and you heard the scream. And that's when that's when Harry was marked with the darkness from the Dark Lord, right? So that was inside of him, and they're attracted to that. Sirius, because of everything he'd been through, had the darkness inside of him too. As they move through this and he grows his awareness, then at the end, when he saves them in the altered time state, that is the spiritual and ego merging in to understand what the process is in that moment. And it's just, that's what I take from it.
You're absolutely right, Nicole. You're absolutely right. I mean, isn't it just amazing how gifted she was at weaving all of that into the storytelling, which is of course all about the Gemini goddess, but nevertheless, there you go.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Does anybody else have anything they'd like to share or any memories about seeing the movie related to those 3 stages that they'd like to share?
I don't have anything to say about that because it's been a long time since I saw that particular movie. I just look at it from a literary perspective, because Harry Potter doesn't follow the hero's journey. He follows the heroine's journey, because he calls on there are people to help him defeat the bad thing. It's never him by himself, because the hero's journey is strictly the one person against evil. And so he follows because he calls on help for other things. And he wasn't the one he didn't purposefully separate. He was caused to separate. Something outside of his whole situation caused him to leave. But, I can see, and he learns something about himself in every movie.
Yes, he does.
Oh, yeah.
And that's part of Rowling's gift that she had, or has. And it's amazing that somebody can write like that. That's not my ability.
It was a download. She said Harry Potter marched into her consciousness whole and ready to be written. She knew it from beginning to end, right in that moment.
I don't doubt it.
No, and that's why she was able to appease her fans for 10 years, because she knew where it was going and she could entertain their theories without giving anything away.
Now, what's interesting is the old template for the sacred masculine, which is the Mars synodic cycle journey that Daniel Gemario created, is the hero's journey. And in the hero's journey, as Daniel Gemario and several other people talked about, that when you leave the ordinary world to go into the extraordinary world, not only do you take allies with you, but then you meet allies in the extraordinary world, like a buckbeak, that becomes an ally too. So I just find it all fascinating how these templates can be used. All right, let me go back to the slides then. So the next Harry Potter movie that we're going to invite you to watch related to this heart chakra activation is the Goblet of Fire. So hopefully between now and next month, you'll have time to watch the Goblet of Fire and discern for yourself the departure, initiation, and return. And what I do is I just jot them down in my notes on my cell phone, so that when I want to talk to Maureen about it or share it with you here, I've got it, because so much is going on in our day-to-day life. It's hard to remember what you saw and what came into your mind while you were watching it. Okay, so we've done a lot of sharing, but I just want to provide one more opportunity if anybody has any questions about anything to be able to ask them here. Okie dokie. And then the next strand of DNA activation is the 18th strand of DNA. It's happening on my birthday, January 8th. That gate activation is happening at the portal of personal power. So we know, of course, that that's the sacral chakra. We will be having our gathering as a tribe the Sunday before on January 7th. Just want to say as an aside, the day after the gate activation, January 9th, is Maureen's birthday. So we're both going to be getting brand new solar return charts, brand new ascension paths to work with. Remember our ceremonies, they're always on Sundays at 3 p.m. Eastern, and I will put the Zoom link on the Patreon page that day. So for everybody watching, thank you very much for sticking with us. I know it's about 2 hours and we can't seem to get it. We want to try to get it down to an hour and a half, but it keeps coming to 2 hours. And so that's just what it is. So thanks for sticking with us, and we will see you next month. Take care until then. Bye-bye.